Live man, respectmyregion.com, back on the official Cannabis Business Podcast with my co-host and sponsor, Ian Rassman of Rassman Payments. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good afternoon, everybody. How you living, Ian?
What's up? How you doing, Joey?
I'm doing well, bro. You know, we're dealing with a little technical difficulties over here, so if anybody watching, be sure to leave our feedback if you notice it a little laggy or grainy. Something's going on with my computer or the Wi-Fi today, but I'm not exactly sure, but we're going to power through. Ian, this is the 6th straight month of us working together doing these podcasts. We're 6 episodes in, Cannabis Business Podcast. You focus on payment processing. You do that in hemp. You do that in cannabis. You do that in retail. You do that in restaurants and food, all these different things. And psilocybin. So I wanted to touch base a little bit about those things today. And we also have some recaps. You and I are going to talk about the Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit. We were both at Chicago Benzinga. So we're going to talk about those events. And then I've got some news stories that we're going to read through and break down today. So how goes it? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump right in.
Talk to me, brother. How was your experience at your very first ever Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit?
Damn, Ohio is popping. Wow, yes. The energy in that room. huge number of booths. I'm not sure how many, but I mean the floor space was extensive, and they had a lot of people flowing through there. So I think the interest in Ohio is on fire. So they're about 1 year into adult use now, and things are changing fast there now. Really, things are changing. And big shout out to Lenny for putting on the Ohio Cannabis Conference. Damn, that was really just a fantastic show. I'm so glad I went to Ohio.
It was an incredible week. We attended the Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit with as well. We were RMR and I, Abel. We were there filming interviews and making content. We actually were at CannaCon before. It was a 2-day trade show. The second day of CannaCon was on day 1 of the Ohio Cannabis Health Business Summit. CannaCon, a unique experience. They've been around for a long time. The event definitely lacking in attendance, but great vendors were there. Just not enough people for them to justify really the spend that they did. Ohio Cannabis Health Business Summit, on the other hand, really stole the show for the week. I spoke with Lenny while we were at the trade show. I'm not going to quote him and hold him to this number, but he did mention 3,700 people, which was almost 2 times what it did the year before, which is incredibly exciting. And it also is reflective of the growth, the excitement surrounding the Ohio cannabis industry. Ian, talk me through some of the brands that you saw there. We saw Grove, we saw Wana, there was local operators. Did any of the other brands or businesses or exhibitors really stand out to you, Ian?
That's right. There were some national brands that we would know, Grove, Wana Brands. Who else was on the national side?
Did you see that shoe company, the Organic Garments?
Yeah, I did see that.
Made with pineapple and hemp.
Yeah, not bad. I like that.
I've actually got a pair up there right behind me. Yeah, man. That's actually, Ian, what size shoe do you wear, bro? That's actually totally your style.
Like an 11 and a half.
Ooh, I might have to cop you some, man. That was a fun one. There was a lot going on there, man. There was insurance companies, accounting, edible brands, a bunch of vertical operators. It was great. With you focusing on payment processing and services in that realm, what were you really hoping to get out of attending this trade show? And the second part of that is, do you feel like you got that?
Yeah, I think I went to Ohio to expand my network. I did not have really any connections in Ohio. I'd never even been to Ohio. Wow. Going to Cleveland, that was my first time in Ohio. And it was really fantastic. I got to meet so many of the Ohio brands and the local operators and to really get a feel for the industry there in Ohio. And it is definitely growing and coming up.
It was an interesting experience because the compliance side of Ohio is pretty strict in terms of cannabis. Yeah. Did you see any cannabis products or sampling happening?
I did not, but I heard about some enforcement. Yes. I heard that the Department of Cannabis, whatever they're called, came in and fined one operator. I heard like $15,000. Somebody that had that violated the advertising rule because they had their logo on some piece of swag or something like that. I mean, something just really like, wow, I can't believe they got in trouble for that. So I believe that there was some enforcement actions on some advertising related things.
Right.
But I truly I didn't see any cannabis. I mean, other than, what we had on us, but like nothing coming off of the tables or coming out of the booths. I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah, it was. I only heard about it as well, but there was a real, true fear
Yeah.
about these compliance people actually being there doing it, and not like a fear of just getting fined. Like, it was like, they're walking around like, don't do this, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
like just standing there with me, someone could get a fine or something, and I'm just over here like, that's just not what cannabis is about. You know what
No,
I'm saying?
I got that feeling too when people
It
were
was a
talking about
little bit, is a little bit suffocating,
it. It did feel
frustrating, and I could only imagine the embarrassment that
a
you
little
have
impressed.
when an enforcement officer or these people are coming in and making an example out of you instead of just writing you the ticket and going on about their day. You know what I'm saying? Like, to some extent, they're going to break the rule. If they want to pay the fine, they can pay the fine. But to literally be grabbing, I don't know. Again, I was told that people had to, stuff was grabbed off the table and put away. Logos were covered up. I was actually a part of an event at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where a very well-known brand had to tape up every logo at every single point they were branded throughout the experience. And this was a decision that they woke up to the day of because of a threat due to the legislation. And that's just not how we handle business, man. That's just not how people handle business. These agencies got to give people enough time in business hours to communicate and react and adjust appropriately. And it just doesn't seem like that was the case.
I didn't have any direct experience in seeing any of that enforcement or seeing anybody from the Department of Cannabis Control, whatever they're called there. But when people would talk about them being there, you could just, you feel the temperature change a little bit in the conversation. And like, there's a genuine fear, I think, because they are so oppressive and the rules sound just so strict that it's hard to just be your brand. I mean, this whole thing about not showing a logo, like, what's that going to do to anybody? What's a logo going to do to hurt somebody? So I don't know. It felt a little oppressive, but the industry's booming. They have an industry. This is important to remember. Whatever level of oppressiveness that it feels to us, it's still the industry. It's still moving forward, and they're going to change. Everybody's going to change. We're all moving.
There'll be growth and progress. Rules will change eventually. Event licenses and probably lounges and pre-rolls, just simple things like pre-rolls getting included and offered in the state. Their units
of measurement were kind of limited, right? Like, what were we missing? We were missing pre-rolls. We were missing what are the things we get here in California?
Like ounce bags of flour.
Oh yeah, what was the math? Hold on, we can't go past this without talking about this. There's a new math. There's a new math. It's not called an eighth anymore. In Ohio, it's called a
2.83.
It's a tenth. I was like,
it's a tenth, and then 2.83 is your daily allotance, and you can buy 30 days of that. I just got gamed up on that on my last episode earlier.
Okay, so anyway, somebody said, well, we call them tenths. I'm like, what's a tenth? I don't know. I never heard that. So
it's like, do I roll 10 tenths into a 1 gram joint?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So they would rather have me smoke 10 bowls than smoke a joint. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely.
Well, I think you're under on a tenth on that joint.
I don't know. It's confusing, and I'm just making it too difficult at the end of the day. Now, okay, so the general consensus here, Ohio Cannabis Health Business Summit, well, score out of 10, like it's an RMR product review. If you're reviewing conferences, Ian, you're a pro, you travel all over the world. What's your number for your very first ever Ohio Cannabis Health Business Summit?
I'm going to go 8.5 to a 9, I think.
Not bad.
Yeah, I was really impressed. And I really just got to specifically call out the freaking after party. Holy shit. That was really one of the legit best after parties I have ever been to. It was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, come on. That shit was just fire. an after party at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I walked over to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame from wherever I was having dinner. And I didn't know what I was headed towards. And all of a sudden you see this big building, a few blocks down the street, and it's very tall. And up at the top of it, it's kind of got glass ceilings that are lit up with LED lights. And of course they could change the lights, but you know what color they had to roll in for our crew, right? So
come on, baby, green and red, baby. Let's go.
Green. The whole ceiling was green. I'm walking with Hirsch. I'm like, I think that might be where we're going. He's like, yeah, I think so too. So they lit up the whole thing in green. It was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was just damn impressive. And that was a big line to get into that event. And they cleared the line pretty fast, but like, damn, there was a lot of people waiting to get in.
There was definitely a line for a solid hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because of how many total people were attending this event.
Yeah, the whatever number you threw out earlier seems small to me, because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after party was just freaking lit. Big line to get in.
They had snacks, food, drinks. They gave you drink tickets, and then you had to buy alcohol after that. The ticket was a little bit pricey, but it came with drink tickets. It came with bites, and you got to see the exhibits. So, you weren't just paying for a party; you were paying for an experience when it comes to this after party. And I would definitely. I'll be the first to say that the networking there was incredibly valuable. Although it was a party and it was loud and the music and the drinking, not necessarily my preferred environment anymore. But I was able to spend time with some people that I don't normally get to spend time with. And I think that was great to be able to walk around the museum and, chat with people while also being excited and getting creative at the same time. There's something to be said about being next to Run DMC's and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and rock stars like Jimi Hendrix and Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam, and just like the story of this. There was an Elvis exhibit there that I sat there for every bit of 50 minutes. I'm hurting. My back's hurting. At this point, I'm just cooked. I did the CannaCon as Ohio. I'm done with them. I'm tired. I sat there for an hour watching every single part of the Elvis exhibit. And it really does transform you to Beale Street. It really does take you to Memphis and Mississippi. It was crazy to being around Madonna's outfits and some of the historic memorabilia.
They had some MJ's jackets there too.
Michael Jackson, Pat Benatar. Cleveland Cleveland's a music town, and Ohio is the Hall of Fame capital. You have the Canton, the Football Hall of Fame. You've got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's very much historic, and people have an appreciation for culture there. Now, that was a great experience. Now, let's fast forward over to Benzinga, Chicago Benzinga, the Cannabis Capital Conference of America, the Cannabis Capital Conference for technically the world in theory. Benzinga has done great works. Historically, they get a lot of hate because it's the Chads and the Brads and the there's something to be like, people just hate on corporate business. Yeah. It's funny because I look like this, right? But your boy has a college degree and worked at Microsoft at one point in my life. You know what I'm saying? And I did cool projects with Microsoft. I wasn't be nice to the people that are good at money. Be a little bit more considerate about these people that are, successful business leaders with finance and investment, payment processing like yourself. It may not be the cool, fun, more exciting parts of the industry, but goddamn, that shit makes the industry go round in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a lot of suits at Benzinga. This is probably one of the higher concentration of suits per a cannabis event. But having said that,
how was your experience? What were your thoughts?
Oh, I love Benzinga, actually. I follow them around the country, Florida, Chicago, and they're coming to LA next month.
Anaheim, baby.
Yeah. So that's going to be great. We're doing co-hosting an after party with them there, so that's going to be hot. But Benzinga in Chicago is epic. Fantastic attendance. I wouldn't even be able to guess how many people were there. Because as you know, the conference is split over like 4 floors in that hotel.
There's the lobby bar. There's the hotel lobby bar where people just mingle the whole time.
Yeah.
Then you have the registration floor.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have panel floor and presentations and meetings. And then there was I think there was 4 floors total plus the lobby.
Yeah, 4 floors plus the lobby. I think that's about right. And the lobby is just pumping. I mean, there are enough cannabis people in the lobby at any given point during the day or night that it's a full conference on its own, just in the lobby.
It was a very valuable experience, very busy, a lot of high energy. I felt like the educational panels and the sessions and all of that a little bit more valuable than in years past, a little bit greater diversity on those things as well. Also, this is just a feeling, whether I'm right or wrong, it's just a feeling. I couldn't help but notice, although drastically male dominant, more women attending. I also noticed students there this time. I also saw, again, I just want to say a greater diversity of humans from last year Chicago Benzinga to the Fort Lauderdale Miami edition to now. It's growing. More people are getting in the space.
Absolutely. I think that's something that we see nationwide, right? Like every one of these conferences is building a little bit in attendance and brands and companies that are participating. I think we're seeing an overall growth across the country, and this is reflected on individual events.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you have a highlight moment for yourself there at Chicago Benzinga, similarly to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at Cleveland?
The whole conference was great. I love the city of Chicago. I had never been to Chicago before cannabis brought me there, and I think that may have been my fourth Benzinga in Chicago.
Yeah.
I do like Chicago for a host city. The hotel that they have is fantastic, really nice. I like all
Marriott Magnificent Mile.
Marriott on the Magnificent Mile. Let's see. So we had the closeout speech this year at Benzinga was, or the closeout fireside chat was with Jim Belushi, a guy I've gotten to know.
You're a Jim fan, and you know him personally.
Yeah. We know each other from seeing each other at these events, and around the world. Jim's showed up at a number of international events, and I've seen him in Berlin and Barcelona. So he's always kind of fun. He gets up on stage and he's Jim. So that was pretty funny. The start of his little talk. I think he was the last fireside chat of the day, and by the time they got to him at like 4 o'clock or something like that, like they're like 10 minutes behind on schedule. Not too bad for a whole day's worth of events. Jim was actually rushing to the airport, so he didn't want to wait the 10 minutes. So I don't know if you were in the room, but he went up all the last the panel before him was still going. He's like, okay, let's give them all a big hand. Let's get out of here. It's just like, you guys got to go. I got to get up there. I got to start. I got to go to the airport. It's classic Jim. He was funny, so they kind of shut down their
a little bit of a memorable experience there. Maybe frustrating for the previous panel, but it's Jim Belushi.
It's Jim Belushi, and I don't know that the previous panel was all that frustrated because they were all getting a lot of interaction time with Jim on camera, and he was engaging with everybody. So, but yeah, could be.
Now, Ian, with you as a payment processing solutions provider, right? You help people, retail, brands, psilocybin companies, hemp companies. You help them find banking, establish banking. You help them take payments through e-com on their web, or in person at events, or in their store, or at their brick and mortar, right? You're a solution for helping people process payments within their business in these more volatile industries: cannabis, hemp, psychedelics, aka psilocybin, and hemp products. What is that message you want to communicate to those people that were there doing those things that may need help in those 4 areas?
People like myself that were there doing those things?
The hemp brands, the psychedelic curious business operators, the multi-state operators or brands that continuously have their payment processing shut down, and so on and so forth. Those companies.
Yeah, payment processing has been volatile since the beginning. I would say, so I got into the cannabis industry really in like 2016. And as you know, in 2017, California went adult use. Everything really changed in 2017. In 2016, I was still signing people up to do like credit cards like they were a Subway sandwich company, but they weren't selling sandwiches. And then in 2017, I think once the volume really kicked up in California, everything in payments started getting a lot of attention in 2017. And, just signing up a dispensary with traditional credit card processing really kind of ended in 2017, and all that was finished. So then, since then, it's been a lot of products like cashless ATM, ACH rail, and then credit cards, because we know that Visa and MasterCard don't want credit card processing on their networks. Which doesn't mean that people aren't doing it. So there's a demand, so the supply rises to meet it. And every time Visa and MasterCard figures out what solutions are out there, then they actively go and try to shut them down. But these solutions do pop up, and they do stay running for some period of time before they sort of hit the volume level that gets attention from Visa and MasterCard. So having said that, credit cards continue to be sort of a whack-a-mole product type, as in they're available right now. So like if you called me today and said, hey, I need credit card processing for my shop, I would set you up. You'd be good to go. With a warning that the solution's going to disappear one day. You're going to call me on some Thursday. Hey, my credit card processing's not working. I'm like, yeah, you and everybody else, that one's finished. So, and that's really how it goes today. People sign up for a merchant service to do what they're not supposed to do, which is to take Visa, MasterCard, and all these things. But at the end of the day,
those credit card companies, those big banks, they don't want cannabis processing and exchanges happening on their network.
Yeah, I don't know that it's the bank so much as really just a straight up Visa MasterCard rule. It's in their terms and conditions. Like, you're not going to do it. So these things come and go.
So these solutions only last. We've talked about this in the past. So these solutions only last a short period of time, or they can come. They're around and they go away and they come back around in different forms and formats, right? And so for the people that were at Benzinga or any of the retailers that were there, Ian is a great person to reach out. Check out his website, Rassman.com. RASS. It's MAN, correct?
Yep.
RASSMAN.com to go read more there. We actively are utilizing his blog together to, you can learn about what events Ian's going to, what events he's been at, his experience at these things. He's got an event calendar over there. He's a solid resource for anybody that has issues with payment processing or simply wants to practice good habits such as redundancy and having backups. I think that's something that's super important as well. Ian, who are some of your partners in the payment processing space or some of those companies that you also integrate or work with?
Yeah, I've been partnering with just about everybody. I've been in the industry for a long time. So as payment providers come through, I take a look at them, see what they've got, see what their product looks like, take a look at what their paperwork looks like for the merchants that would sign up with them. And so I've got good partners really all across the country and spanning different things.
And we're also connected with one of them too. Obviously, our biggest sponsor for a lot of content is Trees. We've talked about this in the past as well. You play nice with a lot of different companies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful.
100%. I play nice with everybody.
Beautiful. Now, to round out the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference for Chicago portion of this, what would you rate that event out of 10? This is a new thing. I'm just high asking these questions.
I'm just going to go all the way out there, and I'm going to put them at a solid 9.5. I mean,
wow.
Benzinga, yeah.
I'm going to throw them at a 9. I'm going to throw them at a 9 because my reason is this. We saw Hall of Flowers step up and really focus on, some of these other areas, equity, craft, women, the consumer day. I'm not saying that Benzinga, which is a business-centric thing, has to go the consumer direction, but you got me tripping if they are years behind on working with Blunt Brunch and some of these other groups to bring up greater women concentration. It's not to throw shade on Women Grow, but women continuously say it's not enough there at Benzinga. Now, Women Grow may be enough. What Women Grow may be doing is enough, but with the women at Benzinga, there are not enough. It's quote unquote not inclusive. I have an article up here that we're going to review and read that mentions the lack of women presence in its own way. And these are things that I think that it's so easy to accommodate the right culture, the right partnerships to change that kind of stuff. RMR, we had a booth there next to Beard Bros. That's the culture tie in the media sense in a lot of ways, having both of us there right next to each other. I also believe that there was plenty of room for a group that is more women's focused on the showroom floor, an event within an event, a meetup, a dedicated mixer, some of these things. We cannot continue to overlook that. We cannot. And so 9 out of 10, there's always going to be room for growth. I want to see that. I want more of the homegrows to come. I want more. I would also love students to be there. There are dedicated universities and college now that have these programs, that have degrees. I think it's absolutely imperative that the colleges and universities get involved with the business of cannabis through the Cannabis Capital Conference. So
I think that's a great idea, bringing in some of the students, the up and coming
absolutely,
workers in our industry, and bringing them in. Yeah, I
the,
agree
the
with that.
biggest reason why RMR is where we're at today is due to team and
Yeah.
and I will own this, my decision to recruit kids from universities, from colleges, instead of talent already from cannabis.
You
I
taught me
I have I say this for years. Whether you hate on me for the intern model or whether you hate on me for free work or whatever it is, we go above and beyond to find talent from universities and colleges, and we teach them what we know. We have them go through a very tough 90-day program. I'm a stickler, and we bring that talent in, and I try to help that talent get jobs in cannabis elsewhere because I believe that there is something to be said about the system of going to class, having to do homework, having to be accountable, having to communicate professionally. And although the college and university model is a little overpriced and outdated, a student who can go through that is good enough to work in most companies. You know what I'm saying? And
I
so
learned
that's
that from you. I
yeah.
did. I learned about interns and college kids and bringing them in and giving them a chance. And I really did learn that from you. And thank you
That
for that.
I would rather pay a college kid 15 to 20 to 25 bucks an hour than I would an adult that's 35, 45, 55 for the same tasks. Because that college kid has a way better skill set for today's world than the older generations, respectfully. As respectfully as I can possibly say that. And that applies to me too. I'm not great at TikTok. I'm happy to pay somebody 10 hours a month for 250 bucks, 25 an hour to run my TikTok for me. You see what I'm saying? And that's just certain things that, take that small example and scale it across operations. Scale it. There's obviously someone who's worked at Amazon, someone who's worked at Microsoft, someone who spent 50 years doing spaceships and NASA. That's not the same. But when we're talking about entry level jobs, we're talking about low level management. The young people are the future. And so I'd like to see that. And I'd also believe that women do run the world. And so I'd like to see that as well. Now, we're going to pivot away from that and these two event recaps, Ian. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 articles. We're going to not read word for word, but we're going to share the title of this. We're going to break it down real quick. Ian, first ones first, I wanted to show love to the homies, 40 Tons, who are going
Yeah.
to be sharing an MJBizCon space with other justice impacted marijuana brands. And so I'm going to take this one first and just break it down. Shout out to L'Oreal, shout out to Anthony, shout out to Corvain, all the people that are at 40 Tons. They're going to be, again, working with a variety of social justice brands, brands that have been negatively impacted by the war on drugs. And they're going to be kind of all collaborating together to have a big, huge free booth space and equity row there at MJBizCon. And so big shout out to MJBizCon for the opportunity and basically giving away the space that they could be selling and making more money on and working with this particular set of groups to bring this to life. We know 40 Tons. Ian, I'll let you share your thoughts on this experience.
I love that. You're right. L'Oreal, Anthony Corvain, what a crew. And we saw them in Chicago. Where else did I see them? I saw them in Meadowlands just like a week before Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah, they are really a great crew. I love what they're doing. I met their daughter at Meadowlands. She came out, so that was cool. But I do love what MJBizCon is doing there with this. Now they did something kind of similar last year as well, right? We had 40 Tons in really quite a nice little area. They were doing interviews, and they had a really
the letter writing.
Yeah, the letter writing campaign. Yeah. So,
but now going bigger and better and actually able to help other brands get on that similar platform and be able to do business at a greater level.
fantastic.
At
I
the
love it.
biggest trade show in the world for cannabis.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love it. And the 40 Tons crew is a great crew to sort of lead that endeavor and bring in similar brands like themselves supporting.
I don't think anybody does it better than 40 Tones when it talks about sharing the platform, sharing the spotlight.
Yeah, they're amazing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love those guys.
Shout out to L'Oreal, Corvain, Anthony. You know we love y'all, man. 40 Tons, not just to the moon, but to every galaxy across the world, man, and across the universe, man. Everything, everywhere, y'all. It's 40 Tons, 40 Tons, 40
40
Tons.
Tons.
Come on, baby. Now, the second story we have here today is actually from The Guardian, Ian. If you want to take that one, that'd be dope. The cannabis industry is awaiting a legal green light, but can businesses survive? This article on The Guardian touches base on Benzinga and what a writer learned there attending that show. Various conversations with packaging companies, pre-roll manufacturing companies. There's quotes from a couple different business owners and operators there. But overall, when you read that title, you work in payments, you understand the tax system. How does this article and reading that, how did that make you feel?
Well, I think that not having read the article and just going off of the title, we know that there are a lot of issues facing everybody in the industry moving forward with really essentially the legality of cannabis in their given state. So there's a lot of things that everybody's dealing with. That make it difficult to operate in the space. So we're waiting for this green light. What's the green light? Is green light legalization? Is that what we're waiting for? Is this the green light that they're talking about in the article? To me, it seems like that is the green light, right? Like
we just saw Kamala, right? Current Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, who's also running for president, right? We just saw her post on Instagram some pretty significant news, which we'll touch on in another article we have here via Marijuana Moment. But I think that's a version of the green light, right? Or a layer to this green light is federal legalization coming. What does that look like? The update from Kamala, and then obviously Benzinga, which is the investment companies and firms and a bunch of different major current operators, again, sharing their thoughts. And so I guess what I'll do is I'll pull a quote from here real quick. I just had a good one. During a session titled Crafting the Next Chapter, Congressional Roles in Advancing Cannabis Reform, David Mangoni, vice president of the lobbying firm, the Liaison Group, suggested that the industry could rest easy about the election since Trump had publicly supported Florida's ballot measure to legalize cannabis. Regarding Tax Code 280E, it specifically forbids companies from deducting expenses for trafficking in illegal Schedule 1 substances, including cannabis. This rule will no longer apply to cannabis if it ends up being rescheduled. So there's clearly a variety of layers that go into this green light, right? Do you one thing that I talk about pretty often is how the industries suffocate themselves, right? Like at some point you have more canopy coming online, and then you have more retailers getting licenses, and then people complain about not enough social equity and the reparations for the war on drugs. So more canopy, more licenses, more stores. But at some point, when do we get more people to buy more weed?
Yeah, this is changing. I think we've seen articles where cannabis has overtaken chocolate sales, for example, and here and there. So, I think cannabis consumption is definitely picking up speed. Anecdotally, I happen to have a lot of friends that are switching away from alcohol, less alcohol, more cannabis. I don't know. It's because maybe I'm an influence in their life, or I don't know. But I really see this happening nationwide, everywhere. People are really becoming okay with cannabis. Let's go back to Cleveland for a minute. Damn, like culturally, Cleveland is just felt like LA. Like you could just walk along a real popular spot in town over by the waterfront over there. People are smoking weed. You smell it. It's here, there. You just don't feel it doesn't feel like it's so illegal anymore. People are just out there doing it. And if they got to smoke, they step away from the bar and they go over there and stand over by the railing. And then they
You're of the belief that the opportunity outweighs the suffocation and the system that seemingly make it not so easy to survive?
I think long term, yes, but I think that it's a struggle in the immediate term, because sort of like the article indicates, can businesses survive until we get to this green light place, whatever that is, that green light, whether it's legalization.
Hold on, hold the fort.
Hold up. Not to overkill the 280E discussion, but we all know that once that goes away, there's going to be extra margin in there for these businesses to help survive. So businesses that have planned profitability with legalization, not such a great plan. You need profitability where things are today. That needs to be your goal, not like, oh, well, we'll be profitable once 280E goes away. Like, no, you're not. You may not make it.
Right.
Big
shout out to the Guardian and Hannah Harris Green, one of their editors there, for participating in this conversation and creating an opportunity for us to talk about it as well. Moving forward to the next article, Ian, let me double check. I've got them in order here. Kamala Harris blames marijuana rescheduling delay on the DEA bureaucracy, right? While defending her own prosecutorial record, right? So we'll touch base on this here as well. People hate on Kamala for a variety of reasons. If you are in the cannabis industry, the fact that she was prosecutor for the state, and she definitely prosecuted people for cannabis crimes at that time, they hold that against her. And obviously there's a variety of other things that you can pick and choose for, but that's one of the things that this is referencing in terms of that. And then I believe the DEA went on record saying that they were going to wait until after the election to figure out the rescheduling conversation, which she then quotes it as a bureaucracy. So what are your thoughts here, Ian, in terms of, the bureaucracy of the DEA waiting until after the cannabis election? And do you, I guess are we going to take a stance? Do we think if Kamala wins, the big cannabis shifts? If Trump wins, do we not get cannabis? What are our thoughts?
I don't know that that people in the cannabis industry should be putting a lot of weight into this election going one way or the other for their business. I don't know that either side really cares all that much about us. So I don't know that we're going to see big changes if either of them win. Great. We've got some promises on the table. We've seen lots of promises before. We're still waiting for Biden to let all the prisoners out. He's got a couple of weeks left. Let's go. Well, he's got a couple months left, I guess, but let's go with that. Let's get those people out of jail. So I hope that whoever does win the election really does try to make our industry more legitimate nationwide. Let's take off some of these restrictive issues. Let's go back to let's just treat cannabis as a normal product. Let's stop setting it so far apart from alcohol. Our laws on alcohol are pretty reasonable, and the laws on cannabis are just not. And I think
let me share the quote that they have here. She said that the process of reclassifying marijuana has been slower than the administration would like because, quote unquote, we had to work with the DEA, end quote. Next quote. There's a certain level of bureaucracy that exists in the federal government that slows things down, Harris said. But essentially, to bring down how weed is classified, how marijuana is classified, to make it classified as a lesser harm, that took some time. There's a whole process around that, but that's the work that we have done. In addition to work that we have done with large on cannabis justice reform. As vice president, I have been a champion for bringing marijuana down on the CSA. So instead of it being ranked up there with heroin, we'll bring it down. She said, my pledge is as president, I will work on decriminalizing it because I know exactly how those laws have been used to disproportionately impact certain populations and specifically Black men. So pretty interesting there. Overall, the country will do whatever it's going to do. You know what I'm saying, in terms of that election. But I also kind of agree with you. I'm not sure how much change is drastically going to happen in terms of timeliness once the next office or the next group takes hold of the office, right? So
they're going to have other priorities.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff. Maybe this one slips in there because it's just so easy and simple. But obviously it's letting the states figure it out for themselves. I think everybody's going to figure out how to make it more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Let's keep it pushing. I know people don't come to us for politics, so let's keep it pushing. Millions of Americans with depression could be eligible for psilocybin therapy if approved by FDA, study shows. And you do payment processing in psilocybin, that realm. You wanna take this one and walk us through what's going on in this story?
I like that. Not having read the story, I'm just hearing the title here from you. But we know that there has been a lot of scientific study on psilocybin as it relates to many different mental health issues, and there's just been science on this for decades. We know that it helps, and anecdotally, we see that it helps people. People talk about their experience, on shifting away from some of the other pharmaceuticals that they may have been on and switching more into plant medicine, whether that be cannabis or mushrooms. I think these things have a real future. I'm a big fan of supporting psilocybin additional research, legalization. We see that some cities around the country are legalizing or are decriminalizing psilocybin. San Francisco,
Detroit.
Seattle, where you're from, right? So we see that going on slowly in different pockets, and I'm looking forward to the expansion of those markets. And I'm seeing it too, because I'm getting a lot of calls from brands and companies that they're like, hey, I've got psilocybin gummies and I want to start selling them online. And I've got this and I want to start selling them online. So I am seeing definite uptick in questions and queries from these brands.
It makes sense. Listen to this. Listen to this data from this article. Are you ready? As many
Yeah.
as 6 in 10 people currently receiving treatment for depression in the U.S. could qualify for psilocybin-assisted therapy if the treatment were approved by the FDA. That's according to a recent study in the journal Psychedelics that highlights the broad impact that could result from wider clinical availability of the entheogen. Quote, our findings suggest that if the FDA gives the green light, psilocybin-assisted therapy has the potential to help millions of Americans who suffer from depression. End quote. Syed Faizan Rob, an MD candidate at Emory University, and the study's lead author said in a statement about the report, quote, this underscores the importance of understanding the practical realities of rolling out this novel treatment on a large scale. End quote. The study, authored by a 3-person team from Emory, the University of Wisconsin, and UC Berkeley, and published last month, sought to estimate the upper, mid-range, and lower boundaries of current depression patients, including both major depression disorder and treatment-resistant depression. Who would likely be eligible for the psychedelic treatment? Its low-end figure is 24%, the mid-range is 56%, and the upper boundary is 62% of current patients. Overall, the report gives a range of estimates on the number of depression patients who'd qualify for psilocybin therapy, with between 4.7 mil and 6.6 million MDD patients and between 1.4 and 1.9 TRD. That's trauma-resistant, treatment-resistant depression.
These are not small numbers.
These are not small numbers. These ranges highlight the potential variability in our estimates based on, this is a quote, these ranges highlight the potential variability in our estimates based on changes in the assumptions underlying comorbidity, prevalence, emphasizing both the robustness and the uncertainty inherent in our projections, the paper says. There is a lot to unpack when it comes to insurance, when it comes to healthcare providers, when it comes to depression, when it comes to traditional pharmaceutical methods for depression. There is so much to unpack here and so much money that has been sunk into the current systems and resources for people with depression issues, or with depression symptoms, or chronic depression, or treatment resistant, whatever it is. There's a lot that you have to unpack to be able to get to psilocybin. It's crazy, because there's just not a quote unquote safe or tested place truly there, at least by the FDA, right? And so hopefully one day we get to that point. This is an exciting thing. Ian, what are your final thoughts?
I think psilocybin is up and coming, and I just heard, gosh, now I'm a little upset that I can't remember where this was happening, but there was a municipality that was looking to legalize psilocybin, but only when you are under the care of your doctor. So the situation would be like, you go to your therapist or your doctor, you take the products and presumably wait until they kick in. And then you have that conversation time with your doctor or your therapist, and that's the therapy. But and then you presumably get a ride home from somebody or take an Uber or something like that. But that was the discussion about how you go to your doctor and you take it there under supervision. So it seems like a different kind of entry point into the industry, quite different from here's your psilocybin, now go home and do what you need to do for your medication, which is maybe how many of us treat that.
Huge in terms of resources, huge business opportunity. I care about patient access, so
Yeah,
ultimately I use it probably recreationally at this point, but I use it as a replacement for energy drinks.
yeah.
And because I don't like to drink that much. I don't
Yeah.
drink energy drinks, but I'm in environments where drinking is happening and people aren't sober, and I also need energy, and there's not much for me to have there. So I tend
People are
to.
talking a lot about mushroom coffee has really been popular lately, right? But I agree with you. I don't really drink alcohol much anymore. It's kind of rare for me to drink alcohol. It's just not really. It's not my vice. I just don't like what it does to me after. By the time I've had enough alcohol to start feeling good, I already know that now I'm going to be on the opposite side of the fence tomorrow, and it's not worth it at all. Compared to other recreational products like cannabis or psilocybin. Like, if I partake in one of those today or tonight, I wake up tomorrow morning and it's like, all right, let's sit down at my desk and start working.
But if I drink a beer with you tonight, I'm gonna feel like crap tomorrow, even if it was just one. It kind of sucks. I don't know what the deal is. But moving on to our next story, Ian. This one is actually I curated this one for you because of payment processing. The Delaware governor signed a bill to protect banks that work with marijuana businesses ahead of their adult use market launch. So, an example of some government doing a little proactive work to help businesses get strong footing when the market goes live.
Yeah, I like this. So this seems like it's a state level version of safer banking to me, just from what I'm hearing about, right? So because this is really what we're looking for out of the Safe Banking Act is protection for banks that provide services to licensed marijuana businesses. So if Delaware is going to step out and do that for financial institutions in Delaware, I think that's fantastic. That's taking leadership in a direction that we need to go. We need that at the nationwide level, what Delaware is planning to do. So I'm all supportive of that.
How exciting, man. Big shout out to the Delaware governor there. I hope that the cannabis companies that are preparing there become aware of that. So reach out. Let us know if you have any questions. Obviously, read this article on marijuanamoment.com. Big shout out to Kyle Yeager for that one. Last but not least, again on Marijuana Moment, Ian, we've got a pretty major story here. New York opens applications for a $5 million community reinvestment grants program funded by tax revenue from the program, from the cannabis program there in New York. So, again, a pretty cool example of, New York's had its own ups and downs and some big trials and some big issues there. There's been lawsuits, there's been delays. It's been messy, but I think it's pretty cool that they're opening up a grant using the tax revenue for it. I find it a little bit ironic, if that's the right word, that they're using tax revenue for this grant instead of finding other places for that money to come from. But I'll take the taking the money from the tax revenue and it happening and turning it into something positive. I'll take that for sure.
And community reinvestment, reinvesting that back into the community, that's a big thing. So whether that's going to be housing or childcare or other reinvestments back into the community, I think this is the right direction to go.
It's definitely a strong move.
Yeah, it's a strong move, but you're right. It's not the only place that these tax revenues need to be pulled from. There's plenty of money being diverted into all kinds of programs that we don't need. So I like this one, reinvesting back into the community. I don't think you can ever go wrong when you reinvest back into the community. And if it's going to come from cannabis money or from this money or from that money, I think it's a solid move.
It's a solid start. And just like this episode, we've been making solid moves, and we're finally here at the end. Ian, I appreciate you for joining, man. This was episode 6 of the Cannabis Business Podcast. For all of you guys watching, be sure to like, follow, subscribe. If you have any questions about payment processing, whether that's on your e-com website, if that's taking cashless payments there or cards at the store, or just navigating and getting a better understanding of these different tools, and the the different resources that are out there to take money in cannabis, hemp, psilocybin, events, etc. I think this is Ian is a great resource. Ian, I very much appreciate you being on this episode. Thank you as always for your time. What would you like to leave the people with today?
Always fun chatting with you, Joey, and chopping up the headlines. Yeah, I'm always available for a chat.
The event tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oh, yeah, tomorrow. So tomorrow we are hosting the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce here in Los Angeles. We do this once a month, third Thursday. We've been getting typically about 120, 130 or so people showing up. So that's not bad for a recurring monthly event. In Venice Beach, the
Baja Cantina. Don't sleep on the quesadillas.
That's right. You love the quesadillas.
Love the quesadillas there, dude. Oh,
you walk in and you're like, "Where's my dilla?"
Hey, what's the dilla? I need a quesadilla. Where you at? Let's go. Come on. No, that's real. Yeah. I appreciate you guys putting that event together, man. It's a big deal. They can learn more actually on Event High. If you guys type in Event High, just type in Los Angeles October Networking Mixer. All the information is there. Baja Cantina, which is at 311 Washington Boulevard in Marina del Rey. It's about 5 to 10 minutes walk or scooter from Venice. You can literally see Venice Beach from the beach at the end of the street, which is Washington Boulevard. Food is delicious. Buy your own food. Bring your own smoke. I will be there with some weed and some vapes and some dabs. Ian, thank you for working on that event.
Check the calendar. Yeah. So these kinds of events are important. These community building events where we can go and meet up with each other, outside of the conference schedules like Benzinga and OCHBS and all those things. It's really important that we keep track of the events that are going on around us. So as you mentioned, I have a calendar that tracks all this. You can go to my website, rassman.com, RASSMAN.com. Click on the events tab. You get a wonderful little interactive calendar that's going to show you everything that's coming up across the country, whether it's local or in your state or nationwide or international. You can filter it down to what you're looking for. But the bottom line is that this is where the community is meeting. And these are the things that should be on your radar. And if you want to know what's coming up in your neighborhood, go to rassman.com and click on events and show up to one of those things.
Pull up, show out, smoke good, smoke loud. You know what I'm saying? JayPing, checking in live, man. Respect my region. My guy, Ian Rassman here, Executive Director of Los Angeles No More, CEO, founder, Rassman Payments. Make sure you all tap in. This episode is brought to you guys by Rassman Payments, which is why he's my partner and why we are always educating you guys on payment processing, cannabis retail, business, marketing, and bringing you guys a conversation about news. I just checked all the local news on Marijuana Moment, MJBiz, Beard Bros, a couple other places. What we selected was what we selected. So I appreciate y'all for the content and giving us the opportunity to talk about that. Ian, big love. I will see you tomorrow. You'll be at WeedCon, but I'll see you at the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce event at Baja Cantina.